consistency. All of our behaviors fall under A, B, C, right? Operant behavior, behavior that is learned, right? Most of the behaviors actually at the school setting is operant, meaning it is learned, right? Behaviors, anything we say or do, and there's always, 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 always 100% an antecedent or what happens before the behavior. Now, is it very possible that sometimes we don't know what the antecedent is because we didn't see it? Absolutely. But there is always one, right? And then a consequence is what happens right after the behavior. So because behavior is learned, our learners, or even us, typically developing adults, we engage in behavior because it's evoked or abated by an antecedent. Like an antecedent is what triggers it. But what keeps it from happening over and over again is the consequence you're getting. If you're getting praised for that behavior that you're doing, you're going to keep doing that behavior because you like that praise that comes after it. If you don't like what you're getting as a consequence, then that behavior will be abated or it will not happen in the future. So digging in a little deeper, behavior is the interaction between an organism and an environment. Organism meaning us, environment meaning your classroom. And that environment includes the adults. Your principal visiting, your assistant, your counselor visiting, or any other person that might be in the classroom is part of that environment. Behavior is anything that we say and do, and it is learned, right? As we saw earlier, our students learn that every time this antecedent occurs, I can engage in this behavior to get this consequence. And most behavior is a form of communication. Most of our learners are trying to communicate a need or a want. I want attention. I need to escape this task. This is too hard for me when they're engaging in behavior. And that means every behavior has a purpose or a payoff. And even us as adults, we continue to do the same behavior because it's paying off for us. Right? I continue to try to exercise and eat healthy because it's paying off. If my goal is to lose weight, right? I will continue to wear my favorite dress because every time I do, I get the consequence of praise or people are saying, okay, I like your dress, right? And that's in anything that we do, even activities in the classroom. Now, antecedents, we said earlier, is what happens before the behavior. To help us remember it, let's call it the fast trigger, right? It's what triggers the behavior. It evokes or abates it. If you don't want what's happening after it, you're not going to do it. And if you want what's happening after it, you are going to do that behavior. Now, sometimes we think that antecedents are always negative, like somebody hit Natalie, so she punched back, or she didn't like something, so she had a tantrum. And that sometimes may be the case, but an antecedent doesn't have to always be negative. It could be as benign as an academic and non-academic demand, right? It could be a divided attention. It could be transition. So these are the most commonly occurring antecedents that you might see in your classroom. And an antecedent can trigger someone's behavior and not trigger a behavior for someone else, right? If I do not like math, you're going to hear me and Natalie talk about math. We found something in common as we were, training together. We have discovered we are both not very keen on math. And so when I use math as an example, sorry for the math teachers over here, it was a hard subject for me. And so if my teacher says, Catherine, time for math, it might evoke the behavior of tantrum for me, or I'll crumple my paper so that I can get sent to the office because I want to escape that task, right? But if Natalie is super awesome in math and the teacher says, take out your math book, she would just take out her math book. Teacher says, thank you, Natalie. And the consequence for that behavior of taking out the math book was a praise. But for me, the consequence for that behavior of tantruming was, bye, Catherine. But the antecedent was the same, teacher saying, take out your math book. So sometimes we can reflect on how we deliver the antecedents or we set up our environment. And we'll talk about how we can support that later on. Now, consequences, as we said, is what happens right after the behavior. Something that you want is added, praise, sticker, token, ticket, or something unwanted is removed. I don't want this task, goodbye. I don't want to sit with my friend, goodbye. But behavior will occur more often in the future if you like that consequence. But wait, there's more. Natalie?
There is more. Oh, I love this setting event. So this is a tricky one. And one of those things that we are educators, I think we so glean on, we wear our hearts on our sleeves and we're going to like figure this out. But essentially the setting event is something that happens prior to the antecedent and things that we may not even get to or know until much later in the school year. So an example could be there was an incident on the bus and student comes in really upset, right? There's already emotion showing. So as simple as, please get out your pencil, right? Could set off that student, right? It could be there's a situation, something had happened at home the night before, right? Maybe domestic violence, maybe something that really, maybe a death in the family. And so that could be something that triggers then student coming to class and you have no idea, right? So some of these things take some time to figure out. It's not maybe till student maybe divulges that information, and or even from families who are like willing to share with you after some time, after you've noticed, you know what, Teacher Catherine, this is what's going on because you're calling me, there's behaviors, we're trying to figure things out. And so just to know too, that's another thing that may happen. And I'm sure you have picked it up, right? On certain students who come maybe on come back to school on Monday, right? From the weekend, something happened. It could be you realize, oh no, this is dad's weekend or mom's weekend. And I know things have changed or maybe escalated for this student this time around. So keeping that setting event in your mind as well. We may not always see that and glean on that. However, there's an opportunity to do something, possibly, right? It's called neutralizing routines. And essentially it's saying, hey, we may know something that's happening, right? It could be, you know, a weekend with mom, student comes back really escalated on Monday. Natalie, teacher, has really picked that up and said, okay, instead of pushing Catherine, keep pushing her, I already know I need to give her some time. So my time is I'm going to have Catherine just relax, give her go in the calming corner for about 30 minutes. She already has a countdown. She has activities that she enjoys doing to help her bring her back and bring her back into the setting, because I have created this routine for her. I've said, you know what, I know Catherine, I know how we need to really set that up for success for her and not be the one where I'm triggering or making it worse for her or kind of, you know, like becoming a vending machine for her, right? Pushing all those buttons, right? And then we're just causing a muck, right, for that day. So another example could be if the setting event is fatigue. So again, something may have happened or you notice students really tired. Well, then we need to allow the student opportunity to rest and sleep. And I've seen this so many times from teachers and they not even realize it. They see their student a little off, something's a little different. You know what, I'm going to do something. Before we get even into academics, I'm going to set up student success in some other regards. And so when we consider even how students communicate, you may have seen this, functions of behavior. It's the why of behavior. There is something that causes student to communicate, right? That's how we kind of want to frame that, communicate. And so really the main functions of behavior are obtain or to get something, or escape or avoid something. So I think of, hold on one second, I hear oh, okay, sorry, my alarm is going off. Like, what is that going on? So when we think of, sorry, hold on one second, sorry. Okay, sorry, the alarm. Sorry, everybody, my house alarm. And I'm like, somebody. Okay, so behavior is either obtain, I'm going to get something, or escape, I'm going to avoid something. So my good example, Catherine and I have used is escape. Escape, thank you. My husband is like, I'm over here freaking out. Ah, there's somebody at the door. Either escape is to avoid something. So I think of this example of Catherine and I avoiding or try to get out of math. We're going to do whatever it takes to get out of that math. Or I know in middle school for me it was getting out of that mile run. Anybody else? Avoiding, I'm going to write teacher's parent, right, Vanessa? I'm going to do whatever it takes to get out of that mile run. Versus obtain or get something is I want maybe a peer attention. I want adult attention. Again, coming from that middle school lens, got it all the time. Students would say something, do something in front of their peers, right? Intentional to get that attention. Ha, I got everybody's attention, right? And so those are really the two main functions of behavior that you may see. Thank you. Catherine just dropped in the presentation as well. And that could even be a person, an individual. I tell about me as a counselor, I had the open door policy. And so students would come in, I'd be like, yes, come on in. And not realizing that I was actually setting up students to obtain or get my attention, right? And not really realizing I was really reinforcing the behavior. They were missing certain classes and me not realizing, holy smokes, there's some function of behavior happening, and putting that all together in science of behavior. I wish I had Catherine back in my day when we didn't learn any of that. Honestly, Catherine, right? It's just you learn as you go and you're like, what is that, right? And so gleaning on understanding some of those things happen as well, which is really about reinforcement.